My husband, Charlie, he wanted to save young men just like the one who took his life. That young man. I forgive him. I forgive him because it was what Christ did and is what Charlie would do.
Resident theologian Jonathan Morris joins me now. Jonathan, does Christianity now lead the Republican movement?
My goodness, listening to J.D. Vance say, I've talked more about Jesus Christ publicly in the last 2 weeks than I have, I think, in my entire public life. And it's really interesting what one person here, Charlie Kirk, had as the foundation of his life was his faith and his family, and everything else, even though he was very involved with politics, stemmed from that. And I think what he's done to J.D. Vance, Vice President Vance, and to many of us is to say, let's be unashamed to talk about it because it can build that foundation stronger. What we don't talk about, we don't care about. And I think that's what we're seeing. And yes, I think it will have an influence in the Republican Party. And I hope in the Democratic Party as well.
All right, Jonathan, you just mentioned this, but we're going to play the sound. Here's what Vice President Vance had to say about his faith. Go.
You know, I was telling somebody backstage that I always felt a little uncomfortable talking about my faith in public as much as I loved the Lord and as much as it was an important part of my life. I have talked more about Jesus Christ in the past 2 weeks than I have my entire time in public life. And that is an undeniable legacy of the great Charlie Kirk.
Jonathan, I want to emphasize this. It seems to me that more people are willing to use the name Jesus publicly. You know, before the assassination and before that memorial service, Jesus' name was rarely mentioned. You didn't hear it. Now I'm hearing it all the time, and I think that's important. What say you?
Yeah, you know, my main work, Stu, is executive coaching. I just got finished a breakfast meeting with a senior executive CEO who's saying, I'm such a spiritual person, but I don't know how to talk about it at work. I don't know how to communicate that to my employees. And we had a discussion about it. I don't think it means going around and preaching from soapboxes in the business place all the time. But it does mean being unafraid to share what you believe and why you believe it. And he walked away, I think, more convinced that, hey, listen, I'm not going to do it in an aggressive way, but I'm going to be unafraid to just be who I am and let the chips fall as they might.
Okay. Another one for you, Jonathan. Supreme Court Justice Alito was in Rome. He was there for a religious event hosted by the newly minted U.S. ambassador to the Holy See, Brian Birch. Alito says religious liberty is under siege all around the world. Do you agree with that? Are we under siege in America?
I do believe in that, especially in other places. I think of all the martyrs of the faith in Nigeria that are happening, for example, all the time. And people who are really giving their lives because they say they're Christians. Now, in the West, in the United States in particular, we don't have that. And so we can get a little bit shy about our faith. And when we get shy about our faith, those forces that do not want the voice of God and the voice of conscience to be present, then they tell us to just be quiet about it and to let your church happen within four walls. And I think that's what we have to be careful of. And I'm grateful over the last 2 years that there's been a big pushback from a legislative, from a judicial perspective that says faith is not supposed to be just in the four walls of a church. It's supposed to be lived out, and people have a right to live their faith publicly. And so, yes, I believe the world is under attack for religious liberty, but in the United States, in a different type of way.
You know, last week we took the show to London, did 2 shows out of London to cover the President's state visit there. Whilst we were there, there was a major demonstration in central London, which was almost a Christian revival. And preachers were publicly reciting the Lord's Prayer. I've never seen anything like that in Britain before. It's a very secular country, but now it seems there's a religious revival. It seems like it's happening there. Is it happening here as well?
Yeah, Stu, I hope what the pendulum is shifting away from the social media and, what the kids are being raised on by their phone. A lot of parents are saying, and we even see this in schools now, saying no phones in schools. And parents are saying, get off of TikTok, get off of Facebook, use it for what it's meant for, but not to live your life there. And I think once we get away from that, then we're opened up to the voice of God. We're opened up to talking to each other. We're opened up to listening to what the purpose of life is. And so, yes, I hope the pendulum is swinging, and I believe it is. And that's why you will be seeing these pockets of revival of faith.
Jonathan Morris, a fine message. We'll see you again soon, I hope. Thank you, Jonathan. Okay.
Thank you, Stu.